Hello, everybody, and welcome or welcome back to the second shelf and to another installment, another video with 3 reviews of books longlisted for the Women's Prize for Fiction. This is, I think, I'm not 100% sure about the schedule, but I think it's number 5. And I will leave links to the other 4 videos and those reviews in the description if you haven't checked that out, if you still want to check them out. And this time we're talking about 3 books where relationships are central, so to speak. No, not only so to speak, they are central. The first one is historical fiction, Maggie O'Farrell's A Marriage Portrait. The second one is a modern debut, I'm a Fan by Sheena Patel. And the third one is Bandit Queens, also a debut by Parini Shroff. I should get my name straight. Parini Shroff. Yes. Anyway, let's start with the first one, Marriage Portrait, Maggie O'Farrell. Maggie O'Farrell, a UK author. A lot of you loved Hamnet, another historical fiction that is centering around Shakespeare's wife. Didn't quite work for me, I have to admit, and I'm upfront right away. This one did not quite work for me either. The setup I thought was really interesting. Renaissance Italy, Florence in particular, the 1550s, 1560s, so the mid-16th century, and the Medici family, and it's the whole setting is just, yes, gimme. I love Renaissance settings in books. I'm really fascinated by this whole era. Anyway, the main character is an actual historical figure, Lucrezia, a young girl who is married, a young Medici girl, and she is married off to Alfonso, who is, the Medici are kind of nouveau riche, and Alfonso comes from a family, the Duke of Ferrara, with old money, like really, really good family. Alfonso was first supposed to marry Lucrezia's older sister, but Mary died, and though the younger sister replaced her as a wife. This did not quite make sense, this sentence, I think, but you know what I mean, I hope. Anyway, so Lucrezia was 15 when she actually moved in with her husband. They were married before, so it was a typical arranged marriage, and a year later Lucrezia was dead when she was not even 16. That's not a spoiler, that's just historical fact. So that is the premise of the book, that Maggie O'Farrell looks at Lucrezia's upbringing, her family background, her youth at home. She was one of many siblings, and a lot of them actually survived into adulthood, which was not that common at that time. And then we have the split in a dual timeline, and the second timeline is 1561, just the moments before she dies, so 2 days or something, when Lucrezia is with her husband at this remote hunting location, and it was really well done to enjoy the writing. Maggie O'Farrell can write atmosphere really, really well. So that, and with atmosphere, I mean the historical atmosphere, but also the oppressive atmosphere that she thinks Lucrezia has felt in the marriage, and the whole setting is really vivid and comes to life. I love that in Maggie O'Farrell's writing. It's a good story. I thought the ending was abominable. I can't tell you because that would be a major spoiler. Completely unnecessary and really abominable. but okay. But my main irk with the book was that it showed Lucrezia as somebody, a really young girl, I mean, 15, and then 16, trying to find her way, trying to find her inner strength in order to cope with this marriage that she doesn't want. That's made clear in the chapters about her past, and that coming of age in a way, even though, she might not have lived long enough to enjoy it. And that's just not, in my view, how Renaissance people thought. There was this whole idea of individual joy and happiness, and your thriving, going on your own path. That is something very, very modern, in my view, and that is not what people in the Renaissance times, how they thought about themselves. The collective was much more important. Certainly, if you are from a family like the Medici, I would rather think that Lucrezia was very well aware of her role in that family, and that she played that role willingly, because it was not even the way to think about, do I want to get married to this guy? No, that's, I think, not the way people lived their lives back then in the mid-16th century. So it was a really good story, but as a historical novel, it just didn't quite work for me, unfortunately. So from the ranking, it is not in the top 6. I mean, I'm pretty sure that it will advance, that it will make the shortlist, but not my shortlist, because if I read historical fiction, you can invent all types of things, but if you really want to make a character that is a historical figure come alive, you should have the context that this person lives in, and not make her a 21st or at least 19th or 20th century person. That just doesn't work for me, but it might work for you. A lot of people really, really loved the book, and I can understand why. But for me, that aspect, didn't make it that good a book. Moving on to another debut novel, Sheena Patel, I'm a Fan. Sheena Patel is a British writer. I think her background is Indian, if I remember that correctly, but forgive me if it's another migration background. I should have checked this again, but I didn't, because I hated the book. It was the first book of I DNF too, because they were just not for me, like Glory and The Dog of the North. They were not bad books per se, but they were just not working for me. But this was just irking the bloody hell out of me. It really annoyed me. It's, again, an interesting premise. This very much set in the new world that we live in now, the social media obsessed world. We have an unnamed younger woman in her just 30, beginning of her 30s, and she's obsessed with somebody on Instagram, hence I'm a fan, because that woman also sleeps with the man I want to spend my life with. That's always how she refers. This unnamed younger woman refers to the guy. The guy is older, he's married, he's a jerk. And I was thinking, do we still do that in the 21st century? Obsess about an older married guy who treats us like shit and who is just obviously a jerk? Especially because she's not 18. the main character. She's 30. She has worked for 10 years. She has a career. She has, it's not like it's your first love and you were 16 or 17 or 18 or 19 or maybe even 20, but it's a grown woman of 30. And the whole book is just about her obsessing about this guy. Duh. Get a life. I mean, I couldn't care less, to be honest. It's like Bridget Jones all over again and not funny. I mean, and Bridget Jones was like 25 years ago or something, like almost 3 decades ago. And at least it was funny, but this is not funny. At all, and the things that she wants to talk about in the book also, but sexism and racism, are so how can I put that? The stereotypical is not the right word, but I mean, like, yes, there's racism against this woman in her job or what have you. Yes, I mean, it's presented as if she discovers like the quantum, I mean, it's 2023. Of course there is racism. We know. So give me something interesting, and not focus around this really not interesting relationship between this woman, and a married jerk. I mean, yeah, no, that was my issue with Trespassers, if you remember, that, and this was at least set in 1975, so it's some time ago, but still it irked me because I didn't think it was interesting. It was a boring relationship at the center, and here is the same, and it's the whole book about this. So no, it's my first 1-star book of the long list. And again, I'm absolutely in the minority. There are people left and right who praise this book. I don't really get why, but that's not important that I get it. Obviously, those people loved it. So maybe you will as well. But for me, that central relationship was so boring and outdated in a way and like uninteresting that the book just did not work for me at all. Moving on. The last book of this batch of reviews, Bandit Queen by Parini Shroff, a U.S. also debut novel, a U.S. writer with Indian background, so her parents are Indian immigrants, and the book is set in India. Modern times also, and the main character is Geeta, and her husband, bad husband, abusive husband, has disappeared, and it's in the village assumed that she killed him. There's no body, so there is no investigation, what have you, but people just assume the husband is all of a sudden gone. And everybody knows that he was a piece of shit, so she probably has killed him. That's the premise. And then from this premise, the author, you can already see me smiling. I love this book. I thought it was brilliant. If you loved My Sister the Serial Killer, you will also love this one. So from this premise that it's assumed that Geeta killed her husband, other women in the village come to her for advice, how they should kill their husbands. Because a lot of the women in the village, or some of the women in the village, have no good husbands as well. Not all of them. There's happy marriages as well. But, there are enough women to turn to her. And that is what then the book is about. And there's a plot twist that I can't reveal, that is really giving the book, the depth, because this premise is interesting, but it probably wouldn't have carried the book all the way through. The characters are really good. The women, Geeta in this role that she doesn't even want, of kind of advisor for murder, and kind of helpless, but she wants to help those women. The way sexism and classism is portrayed really worked for me. There are some reviews that criticize Shroff's lack of knowledge of the Indian life, Hindu, Muslim life, because she lives in the US. I mean, she visited obviously often, and her family, her grandmother still lives there. I can't judge that. I don't know. But I'm a white person, so I'm not going to go there. I mean, I'm not going to criticize an Indian author, American Indian author, for the way she portrays Indian life. No. Anyway, but for me, it worked. It sounded believable, authentic. It was funny, but not quirky. Dog of the North, it doesn't work for me. But it had humor. But it also addressed really serious issues, but in a way that was, not in your face, finger wagging, like, look here. No, it was just a very good story and well told. So I definitely loved this one. It's so far, I haven't read all the books yet, but so far it's definitely in the first 6, and it's at the moment it's, I think, number 1 or 2. So I loved Pod, I loved Bandit Queens. Those books are really good, and yeah, some people said in the comments, well, we are waiting for, the gem that you will discover. Well, Bandit Queens, certainly. I was absolutely in love with the book. But Marriage Portrait, like I said, for a lot of you, it will work, because I know that it worked for a lot of readers. And I'm a fan, obviously. I have to consider that it works for people. So, yeah, but Bandit Queens was an absolute joy to read. Anyway, so these are 3 more reviews of the books, of the long-listed books of the Women's Prize for Fiction. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to your comments as always, and I'll talk to you all soon in the next one.